everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Two Peas in the Podcast, episode 13. Unlucky for some, but not for us because we are feeling fabulous today. And today we are talking about something so super duper exciting, darling. What are we talking about, Jess?
We are talking about intuition, which I'm really excited about because intuition is a huge part of my life. So, yeah. But what it is, where does intuition come from? Can we trust it? What's the difference between intuition and ego? Just things like that.
Yes, which is like our bread and butter. So we're going to get into this and like have a really good chat. I know. And I know that you were the one that suggested this, but when you did, I was like, oh, yes, queen. I get it, girl. So yeah, I'm super excited. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. And I guess we should kind of we've already introduced ourselves before, but let's just kind of reintroduce ourselves so people know why we feel so passionately about this. Yes. I myself am a tarot reader. A seer, a psychic, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to just put myself under the label of just a tarot reader, but that is what I do mainly, is use my intuition through tarot cards right now. So intuition obviously is a big part of my life.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And for those who don't know me, my name is Katie. And like Jess, I can read tarot. I'm not a full-time tarot reader anymore. I used to be. I now work with women coaching and doing events and writing books. It's a whole thing. But my intuition is very much, it's a part of me as my ears. Like, it's just like, I use it every single day. I lean into it. But we're going to get into this and talk about it, and like you say, what it is, how it shows up for us, all that good stuff, right? So, my darling, as you were the one that kind of wanted to go down this route, I'll let you start. So, what is intuition to you?
Intuition, to be short and to the point, intuition is your GPS.
Ooh, yes.
Yes. It's your navigation system. It's a built-in system that you have to help guide you through this life. That's just what if somebody was to ask me like you just did, that would be my exact response.
I like that. I would call it the whisperings of the soul, right? Because it's always there.
Because you're a writer.
Sure, of course, right? But yeah, it's always there. It's just not as loud and shouty as the ego.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think that sometimes, and it's important, that we do discuss the ego while we discuss the intuition, because I think that sometimes it's easy to mistake which is which, and me personally, I find into our ego to be something that's screaming at you and something that is highly based off of fear.
Yes. Although I always give this kind of little caveat when I'm doing my coaching. So I feel like the ego needs a new PR. I think it's got a really bad reputation, and I think we need to understand what it's actually trying to do. So your ego serves two purposes. One is the I am, it's your identity, right? So I am Katie, I am a woman, I am a mother, all those things. The other function of it is to keep you alive, okay? So when we first evolved as human beings, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years ago, the world was like, we were like babies in the world, right? So it was like we were having to learn what everything was and what everything did. And so your ego was kind of, like you say, your GPS system. And so if I eat that berry over there, I'm going to die. If I stroke that big kitty with the big teeth, it might eat me, right? So it was like totally on. The world has changed, our brains have not. So your ego's job really is when you're in the comfort zone of your life, when things are just ticking along. So on Monday, just as this, on Tuesday, just as this, on Wednesday, just as this, your ego is quite quiet, right? Because it's knowable. And all fear is the unknown and thing out of control. So it's knowable. So your ego doesn't say an awful lot, really, even if you are miserable. Now, because if you are miserable, you're then going to make a change, big or small. Your ego now sees that as the unknown and freaks out because that's dangerous and you could die. So it's like, stop, go back into the comfort zone. So, and it's sneaky and it's manipulative and it hides, but it will say and do anything to make you stop. And it is trying to protect you. It just goes about it in a really crappy way.
Yeah, because your ego it's not out there for your happiness per se.
No.
It's not about what brings you passion or joy. It's simply about keeping you in that comfort energy that you're in, because that is safe to the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually talk about this a lot with my clients about fear and the different kinds of fear, because not every fear is a bad thing.
Yes.
Your fear that's telling you maybe you shouldn't jump off that literal cliff is, yeah, because that's dangerous. But the fear that's telling you that you shouldn't relocate to a new city might be exactly your ego speaking to you. So it's good to use discernment when you feel fear within yourself. What is this fear actually telling me?
Exactly. I mean, everything I've done, I liken fear to when you go to a restaurant and you order your meal and they bring you out a side dish of bread and butter. You haven't ordered this, but it comes anyway, right? And some people just eat the bread and butter and they get filled up and they can't eat their main meal, right? Every single thing I have done in my life has come with that side dish. I have done nothing not afraid, I should say. But confidence is a verb. It comes from doing. And for me, that kind of fear is actually a sign that I care. Because if I went to work at the local grocery store, I would be bored out of my brain because I don't care. I don't care. I don't care how many apples she's selling. I don't care what this week's promotional is. Don't care. And I'd be quite rebellious. You know what I'm like? But but I wouldn't be afraid. Whereas if I'm doing an event or a book or a course, as you know, because you've been with me all through every step of this journey, and what am I like beforehand? I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. And then afterwards, because the desire to do it is bigger than the fear not to, I'll push myself. And then instantly I'll message us. I'm like, that was amazing. I can't wait to do it again. Right. So that's what it is.
Yeah. But you see, because you've faced this lesson so many times in your life, you've almost mastered the ability to discern your fear, to know when your fear is rational and when it's not rational. That's what I feel like some people do kind of struggle with a little bit. And one of the things that Katie always says to me it's right as rain, I can depend on it. Every single time I bring up anything that I'm scared of, she, in her computer head that's already mastered this, will work out whether this is a rational fear for me or not. And then she will say, well, if you're feeling afraid, that means you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. Every single time she says this to me. And I'm like, okay,
so predictable.
I'm like, okay, yes, but that doesn't mean I'm not afraid still, So yeah, I feel like talking about your intuition and talking about fear is so important, because sometimes our intuition will push us to do things that we are afraid of.
Yes, doesn't it just? I always liken it. We've all seen at some point in our lives, I think, Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail. Yeah, we've all kind of, even if you've not watched the whole movie or you haven't watched it for a really long time, it's there in the back of the brain somewhere. And there is that scene where he comes out of the cave or whatever, and he's on a ledge. And there's a massive drop underneath him, and there is no bridge, there is no stairs, there is nothing, there's just black. Right. And then there's a ledge on the other side of the cabin. And he's like, for a second, he's like, what am I going to do? I was like, should I go back? I can't go forwards. Like, freaking out. And he realized, because the whole movie is an allegory towards faith, right? So he realizes this is a test of faith. And what he's supposed to do is step out into the darkness. And when he does, the steps appear under his feet, right? So that's what intuition is. Intuition, for me, is, we're not going to show you the whole staircase. We're not going to show you the whole destination thing. We want you to have faith, take a step.
Yeah, that is so bang on point, accurate, bullseye. Because yes, you do have to step out sometimes on faith and have trust. And it is about learning to trust your intuition. And this just comes from practice and time and repetition. Yeah. You are not going to be born. I mean, actually, I take that back, because a lot of kids will just naturally trust their intuition. Oh, yeah. But when we've grown and we've had life beat us down and show us that sometimes when we make choices, it doesn't turn out the way that we want. Sometimes when we trust, it was in vain. It's harder to trust your intuition. Yeah. Like I say sometimes, is that intuition is like any muscle. The more you work it, the more you can depend on it.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, trust, and act.
Yeah.
LITA. That's the acronym, LITA. Because the more that you listen to it, trust it, and actually act upon it, you are strengthening that muscle every single time.
Yeah. And then after a while, you'll just naturally start to trust your intuition. I feel until it comes to really big things, because even if you're like people like us, for instance, that do naturally kind of lean towards trusting our intuition more, we still struggle with it. There are still things where it's like, I don't know if I can trust this or I can believe this, especially when you keep getting the same message and it's not coming through. I feel like that's one of the hardest things for us as individuals.
Yeah, because we have instant gratification and impatience, right? So we want it and we want it now.
Shame.
Hey, I'm calling myself out in that as well, okay? Not just you.
Well, I've had such adverse reactions to like where I will want something and so I'll push and I'll push and I'll push and then I'll end up manifesting my worst fears. If I would just been patient and would just let things unfold naturally, I might actually have what I wanted. Like, yeah, I know. God.
Let me Susie slide at you right now. I'm like, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are.
We're growing. We're a work in progress here.
Of course we are, because we are messy, complex human beings just like everybody else, right? Bless you. I know, I get it. That's the thing. I mean, the classic example for me is this whole thing with, of course, the internet doesn't know, but I have to move out next month. And you've been on this journey with me. Oh my God, it's been stressful, right? Like, I found this out at Easter, and like you've got 3 months, and it's been so stressful. And yet, all the time, there's been this like feeling. It's the only way to describe it, in my heart and in my pit of my stomach, of like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But my brain, my ego, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm totally in fear and massively overthinking, because, I mean, even when I was offered a really good opportunity yesterday, I still was like, what do you think I should do? Even though anybody external would be like, jump on it, are you stupid? But the fear, the ego is so, it's actually weirdly, I think, a form of temptation. I think that it presents, why would you be tempted by fear? It's horrible, but it's so persistent and it's so loud. And our brains are so naturally in that space anyway. It's hard not to be sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's about slipping back into those negative mindsets that you've worked hard to get yourself out of.
Yeah.
There's always a temptation to go back.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, no, I really don't want to go back there. There's always that temptation that arises, you know? And I feel like with your situation in particular, with this, you know, move, there's been so many unknowns. There's been so much uncertainty and so much that's been almost left up to the very last minute that it's hard. It's difficult to have faith. It's difficult to trust your intuition. And I think that's normal, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it anyway.
No, it's true. It's true. So, I mean, I know it's a bit kind of on the spot, but can you think off the top of your head when you really leaned on your intuition, or perhaps maybe when you got the feeling but you ignored it and then wish you hadn't?
Like we talked, I'm like, brain stop.
I know.
Like we've talked about a lot leading up to this episode. My intuition is such a daily part of my life. It's hard, but I will say when I left my last job, because my intuition had been telling me, as you know, for a very long time that it was time to leave that job. Yeah. There were so many fears that were connected to that. Obviously, my well-being, my money, my kids, my house. Being homeless doesn't fit in to my my lifestyle plans right now. So I was just like, you know, there was a lot. And being miserable at that job and feeling like it was soul sucking and feeling like I was not on my path. And in fact, I was running full speed in the opposite direction of my path. But my intuition kept telling me, over and over, it's time, it's time, it's time. And I will say that I fought that to the bitter end. As you know, she was there. You'll hear us say this a lot. She was there. We've been there for everything, guys. We're best friends. Okay, we've been there, everything. Anything that happens, we're there.
This is a daily conversation we had for months of like, I don't do this anymore.
I was not in a good space. I was to the point where I was snapping on people. I was snapping on clients. I was snapping on myself. I was crying. I was frustrated. I was having anxiety. I was not in a good headspace because I was just not in the situation that I needed to be in. And I fought it for a long time, even to the point where I was getting a lot of signs. I remember I was seeing X
everywhere.
everywhere.
Huge in the sky. It was massive.
And not just in the sky, like X on the and bumper stickers, like the X Files I saw one day, and X on like a parking lot. There was just a random X spray painted there. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I wasn't really sure. I was like, well, is that what this is talking about? Is this not what this is talking about? You know, doing the whole thing where you go over and over and over again. I had to step out on faith. It was scary. And to be honest with you, I let myself get to the point where I didn't rage quit, but I had like, that was the straw that broke the camel back type of moment where it was like, okay, I'm going to leave with grace and love and light before I cuss everybody out in this mother. And then I won't be looked at as this valuable employee that I once was. I'll be looked at the one that lost it in the end. It was really important for me to leave with grace and dignity. Because
exactly.
Hold on a second. Sorry. I need to send this call to voicemail. I never get any calls, but I got a call. Okay.
Real world, guys. This is what we're like, right? You know, we're not polished or perfect.
And I'm not editing that out. I don't care. I mean, anyways, long story short, guys. So finally something happened where I saw that not only was I not fitting into my environment anymore, but now my environment was not fitting into me, if that makes sense. Like I was starting to have like toxic things that were happening with coworkers and stuff that I'm just like, okay, this is actively pushing me out now. So I followed my intuition, and I honestly, I haven't regretted it. Did I have a moment afterwards where I was like, what the heck have I done? And was really like scared and like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? But now that I've kind of don't have that on my shoulders anymore, I don't have all that negative energy surrounding me, I just feel so much better.
Absolutely. And yet you can feel, because everything's cyclic, right? So a couple of days ago, it was almost like the energy of that job came back into your life.
Yes.
Right? And so you
can
feel, it was almost like temptation going, do you want to come back? Do you want to come back?
No.
I know. This
like,
is what happened.
It's funny because like I've gotten in like YouTube, like with my readings, I've gotten a couple messages sometimes that have like talked about an old employer coming back and being like, hey, we're just wondering if you're interested. And I think to myself instantly, well, it best not be that job for me because there's not nothing they could offer me. They couldn't offer me $1 million, Alexander Skarsgård on a plate. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? A jacuzzi sitting out back. These are just things that I like, guys. I like $1 million, Alexander Skarsgård, a jacuzzi.
Yeah, all of it in one.
Probably him in the jacuzzi, you know, like him in there. Like, hey, babe, how was your day? Oh, my day was amazing. It was amazing. Just like you know. So there's nothing that they could offer me that I would ever accept. But yeah, I had somebody that used to be somebody that worked under me that called me asking if I was still in charge. And I was like, no. And I'm happy as hell about it too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I was just thinking, because that's the thing, isn't it? Intuition is like, so while the ego will do get rich quick schemes, and it will go, this is not working, try this. This is not working, try this. So it's like chuck paint at the wall and see what sticks, right? Yeah. Your intuition will go, take this step, take this step. And it's repeated guidance softly, but it will repeat the thing until you do the thing, and it will get louder over time if you ignore it. So for me, I know, I call it the tower moment from the tarot. And for me, I know in my own life that when I ignored my intuition and I ignored the whispers that became shouts, it was almost like spirit was like, oh, God damn, girl, enough now, and put me on my ass and made me listen.
Yeah, and I honestly was going to say that's why your intuition will start to get louder is because you're about to hit that tower moment, and your spirit team really wants to avoid that because it's not going to be pretty when the tower comes down. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like if there's anything, I'm trying to think of times where I wish I would have listened to my intuition, but I didn't. I think it's more about dealing with other people. Especially like men in particular for me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, where
yeah.
I've ignored my intuition because I liked the person or I saw the potential in the person or whatever. And then I always like, I regret that in the end. Like, I really should have listened when my intuition was telling me this person's no good. That's the only thing like definitive that I can think of. What about you?
Oh, same, same.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an actual extreme of that is that I ended up in a very sticky, precarious situation as a teenager. And I knew nothing about intuition back then, like nothing. But I still could feel, like you call it, yeah, your gut instincts or whatever you want to call it. I still felt like I shouldn't be doing this. Like just being with him in a room on my own. And then, it led to things that probably shouldn't have happened and, well, definitely should have happened and with quite nefarious acts against me. But, it's one of those things where, wishful thinking, hindsight, it's all I think you have a choice. You can either go, that was stupid of me, and beat yourself up about it mentally and make you feel like, you're be really hard on yourself. Or you can see it for what it was, which is a lesson.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to go through the first bit to get to the second bit, which is what the case was for me. But it is all a lesson. And the idea is that next time you feel that, you actually pay attention to it.
Yeah. And that's why it's like, as you, like we said already, as you listen to your intuition, it strengthens and it grows and you start to trust it more. You know, um, it's easy to really get down on yourself when you haven't listened to your intuition and then you're feeling that sadness or that shame or that regret. But that's not a form of loving yourself or giving yourself respect because everybody makes mistakes,
Yeah.
you know? Um, so yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Sometimes it can be more detrimental than other times if you don't listen to your intuition.
Sure.
For
Absolutely.
some people, there can be moments where if they don't listen to their intuition, it's literally, extreme. Like it could cost them their life or it can really cause some kind of trauma or something to happen to them that they would avoid.
Yeah.
So some lessons are bigger than others, but the point of your intuition, I feel, is to guide you.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about when your intuition, you do listen to your intuition, but it leads you to a place that does give you a harsh lesson. Like that was the point of your intuition leading you to a harsh lesson. Now, why I believe that this happens, I'm a sunny side up type of person.
Me too.
Regardless of what my handle, the Moody Tarot, says about me. I am optimistic, guys. I feel like your soul wants to learn lessons while it's here. It doesn't actually want to have just a smooth sunshine rainbow ride where nothing bad ever happens to you and there's absolutely no growth, because I find that the most growth comes through adversity.
Yeah.
So sometimes your intuition will lead you into situations that maybe has a painful lesson attached to it, but it's something that you needed to experience.
Yeah, I agree, because my belief is that it's almost like we've had an agreement, so called contract, we've had an agreement before even, before conception, when we're in spirit, and our spirit knows our soul's journey, knows our soul's, the path we've been on and the lessons we've learned so far in the soul growth, and goes, okay, this lifetime, I want to focus on this and this. And you come down with that almost imprinted in your soul. Right. So you're going to go through things in this lifetime that are meeting that plan. And the thing is that because we have spiritual amnesia, we can't remember what we've agreed to.
Yeah. And also, I think that we look at suffering in life as something that's unfair or something that shouldn't happen, but that's actually not the case. I am a firm believer in and I really do think that I should look into Buddhism, because a lot of their philosophies I actually naturally tend to pull towards. But the first philosophy of Buddhism is life is suffering.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with that. I think that expecting to not have any suffering is the most detrimental form of wishful thinking that you can have, because life is going to cause moments that aren't great.
Yeah. Especially, if you deal with other people on any level, there's going to be pain.
Yeah. And it's not about wishing or hoping or praying for a life that's free of any kind of woes. It's about wishing and hoping and praying for the strength to be able to handle a life with woes, because that's most likely what you're going to get. So what will happen is people will listen to their intuition, and then it'll cause them to go to a place that they regret because they're like, I should have never listened to my intuition. It's about reforming that thought that we have behind why we were led to that. Yeah. It wasn't just to make you suffer. But if you want to take on the identity of a victim, then okay. It's more about the lesson that you were meant to learn behind why you were like that.
Absolutely. I mean, we both know people, have known people that just wear their trauma as a victim for their whole entire life. And you get like things that happen to them like 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they still wear it as like an overcoat. You know, it's like it goes with them everywhere. And they can't, and it's almost like a stubborn refusal to see it any other way. And that's because your ego is justified in that victim space, right? So we talk a lot in the spiritual community about the power of forgiveness, which as I get older, I think that's quite a gray area. But for the sake of this conversation, let's say that, you know, people go to you, oh, forgiveness will help you, it will set you free. But if you're in victim mentality, your ego goes, well, you're not going to forgive them. Because if you forgive them, you're saying that what happened to you is okay. So we're going to stay in the pain, we're going to stay in the anger, we're going to stay in the trauma, because that way that's justified and that's a reasonable emotion for what happened to you.
Yeah.
But all you're doing is hurting yourself over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're keeping yourself stuck in situations that, and also I feel it's also about sometimes when we're hurt, especially when we have conflict with people, take yourself out of that situation emotionally and look at it from a higher perspective. Look at it from an outside perspective, and even try to empathize with the other person, which people who have been hurt by people, they don't want to empathize with the other person. And I know, because I've been there. We've all been there. We want to see that person as the bad guy. We want to see that person as this is their fault. They're the ones that caused me pain that I didn't deserve and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, each person is going through their own thing. You know, that term, hurt people hurt people. I used to hate that. When I first got into spirituality, I hated that phrase. I couldn't stand it because it doesn't give somebody else a right to hurt people. No. Until I did the inner work, y'all, and started seeing how I, as a hurt person, had hurt people. Because when you, and that's what karma is, right? Karma is getting exactly what you serve. Yeah. Exactly what you put out there. It's coming back to you. It's a lesson. It's not a punishment. It's not, you know, some kind of form of justice that is happening. Karma is literally you experiencing what you've put out there so you can understand that that might not be the nicest thing to put out there. That's what that is. So me having karma from being from in a hurt place and then hurting people, but not really wanting to hurt them, but just by default hurting them because I was hurting, it helped me kind of understand that phrase a little bit more of hurt people hurt people. So now when people hurt me, even though it's really hard, I try to not internalize it. I try to not make it about me, because oftentimes it's not.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're not saying don't have the emotional reaction. So, you know, be upset, be angry, be, you know, all of the emotion. Your emotions are justified. Your emotions are always justified. They are just a messenger from your brain telling you to pay attention to something, right? So if you need to cry, scream, punch pillows, do what you need to do. But it's staying in that it's not fair victim mentality indefinitely. That's where the issue is. Like, you can be in there for like, oh, you know, a day, a week, a month. You do what you need to do. Don't unpack your stuff and live in that space indefinitely, because you're actually going to continue. You are time stamping yourself in the trauma. You're basically freezing yourself in that space of pain, and you will live there for the rest of your life if you're not willing to let it go.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, don't bypass your emotions, as Miss Katie said, because it does cause issues. But if you want to find freedom and you want to find forgiveness and you want to find forward movement, you have to release the emotions and you have to look at it in a different way. Yeah. That's where forgiveness is found.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. You know, trying to go So, for example, if you've had a parent who hasn't parented you very well and has hurt you, whether emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever, for me, one of the things that has helped is to try and understand how they were parented. Because you tend to, when you are parented, you tend to go through one of two options. You either parent in the same way, because that's what you've been taught and that's the norm, or you go completely the opposite direction, right? And most people, especially the older generations, will parent as they were parented because they didn't know any better. So that helps. Again, it's not excusing behavior, it's not going, it was okay, but it does help you get some perspective.
Yeah. And I think that there's a delicate balance that's needed, because I do think that the younger generations now are parenting in the way of the complete radical opposite. Like, I don't want to give the same experience to my kid that my parents gave to me. But not all of the experience that your parents gave to you, even if some of it that you didn't like, wasn't bad. Some of it was helpful. I feel like discipline and structure is something that is starting to lack with the younger generations.
The whole gentle parenting movement just winds me up.
and listen, we're not trying to call people out, okay? Because we've all been there, and I have definitely done things like that I've given to my kids in a positive way, and I've seen how what I wasn't given from my parents actually molded me into something different. Not to call my kids out, because my kids are wonderful, but y'all know what I'm saying. If you're parents, you get what I'm saying. When you, like, our parents used to live under the philosophy of spare the rod, spoil the child. Now we're spoil the child, spare the rod. And there needs to be a healthy, I'm not saying beat your kids, y'all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there needs to be a healthy balance here, you know? And I think that actually understanding how your parents were parented is brilliant. I don't have the book in front of me, or else I'd go grab it. And I'm wearing little tiny booty shorts, so I don't want to scare anybody. So I'm not going to get up and walk off into there. But there's a book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. KB knows I've been literally talking about this book constantly, because it has just opened my eyes up to so much. You can get it on Amazon. I suggest getting it. Since my mom has passed away, I've been seeing her as more than just a parent. I've actually been seeing her, and I'm not going to get emotional and cry. We're not crying again on this podcast, damn it. Like I'm willing my tears back into my eyes right now.
Do the girl thing. Do the girl.
Like, but anyways, I've been seeing her as more than a parent, though, and I've been seeing her as a human being.
Yes. Yeah.
And seeing her as the ways that I wish she would have shown up for me, or the ways that I felt neglected, or I felt misunderstood or left to the side. I'm seeing now that she was struggling with her own stuff, and she was just doing the best that she could do with what she had and what she knew.
Yeah.
You know?
As we all are. All of us are just doing the best we can. Do we always make the right choices? Not just in parenting, but in life? No. The idea is, of course, because I believe, as you know, that the current belief about life is incorrect in my experience, which is that you are born over here, you die over here, and stuff happens in the middle. I don't believe it's that shape. I believe life is that shape. It's like an ice cream cone. So you're born at the bottom of the cone. And like I say, we have soul lessons and soul growth. So the idea is that you go up the cone in a circular motion, and you'll meet the same lessons over and over and over again, and in different ways. But the idea is that you're supposed to move through it on a higher level, so that you move through it healthier and faster, because you're learning. The problem is that most people don't get that, and they spend their life just go circling the bottom rung, round and round and round. I mean, the amount of people that have told me over the years, I've dealt with this already, why is it back again? I thought I'd moved past this. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point, babe.
Yeah. Which can be incredibly frustrating.
Yes, I'm not saying it's not. It's incredibly frustrating. But this is what life is. Frustrating.
I feel like, and I honestly feel like there are what we call red flags.
Sure.
There are indicators that show us that we are about to enter the lesson that we've already learned. Maybe, and I'm talking, listen, guys, like I say on my YouTube all the time, I'm never just calling people out. I'm always talking to myself as well, because I've been through it going through it will go through it. Maybe if we actually paid attention to the red flags and didn't allow ourselves to go right back into that cycle, we wouldn't experience it, or we might experience it in a different way, or we might have a more satisfactory outcome from it. Because we walk right into the same lessons. You can't tell me that we don't.
I'm laughing because I had a vision, Inside Out, with the little guys that are inside your head. And, with all the different emotions. I had visions of them with little tiny red flags going, stop!
Yeah. Yes. And you're like, well, no, it'll be different this time. Or I'm going to actively ignore that because we want this desired outcome.
It's going to be different because I want it to be, goddammit, and it's going to be.
Yeah. And it's often, sometimes, us getting the same lesson back so that way we can go, okay, now are you going to do the same thing that you've always done? Because if you do, have you really learned the lesson? So for the people that have come to you and been like, well, I've already been through this before. Okay, but did you learn the lesson though? Because maybe that's why you're going through it again.
Exactly. And that wonderful quote, I was at Einstein, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always done.
I think the quote is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is insanity. Yes.
Exactly.
I would agree.
It is. So, for example, if you are, if you get paid at the start of the month and you're not good with money, that's your money story. And so that you blow it in the first 2 weeks and then you're struggling for the last 2 weeks and you're doing this every single month and you're complaining about it. But you're not making any changes. Like, how do you think life's going to get magically different by itself?
This card right here. Change. I understand that nothing can grow or evolve without movement.
Yeah. It's funny, when I woke up this morning, talk about intuition, I woke up this morning and the song by Sheryl Crow was playing in my head, which I haven't heard for years, and Change Will Do You Good. It was playing inside my head when I woke up this morning.
I love when I wake up with music in my head. Because, my guides really do talk to me a lot through music. It's disgusting how much they know they can get through to me with music. I'll be in the grocery store and I'll hear something and I'll be like, okay, I don't have time for this. I'm shopping.
La, 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 la.
Like, little kid's like, Mommy, she was talking to
herself. I'm not talking to myself. I'm having a staff meeting. Do you mind?
No, there's people here. You just can't see them, hon. I'm not talking to myself. But no, I don't know. I just feel like intuition is something that, like everything else in life, we have to really pay attention to how we look at it. It is about our perspective.
And I say as well, just because I think this is really important, the media, or certain parts of the media, want us to think that side of life, so psychics, healers, intuition is, and this term winds me up so much, so I'm going to try and say it calmly, woo-woo. I hate woo-woo with every fiber of my being. I hate woo-woo because it is disparaging, it's disrespectful, it is making it small, it is making it weird. And the belief comes from the fact that people like us somehow have these weird magical abilities that other people do not have. And I call bullcrap on that because it's called the sixth sense for a reason. Yeah. We all have intuition. And, regardless of whether you're tuning and tapping into it or not, you still have it. It's like, and the analogy I give, because me, your girl loves an analogy, she does, is that I liken it to a door inside everyone's brain, right? So my dad is a complete atheist, complete man of science, thinks I'm absolutely bananas. So his door is not only locked, like he's covered it with ivy. He won't even acknowledge he's got a door, but he still has one, right? Our door, me and you, babe, is wide open. We are engaging with this every day. We're doing the thing. Most people's doors are closed but not locked, and you choose whether you open the door.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think that it's safer for some people to say instincts.
Yeah.
Like their instincts told them to go left instead of go right. And yeah, I mean, you can call it whatever you want to. It's kind of like the debate over calling it God, spirit, Allah, Scooby-Doo. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's the same thing. That's why I get so frustrated when people get hung up on the fact that I call spirit.
I know.
It's the same thing. It's the higher power. It's the divine, right? It's the creator.
Mm-hmm.
But humans, we get attached to labels.
Yes,
because it makes us feel some type of way. And for me, what's really incredibly frustrating about how the spiritual community is looked at is we're looked at as scam artists, grifters, people who are taking advantage of people. For me, my view of this is very black and white for once. Are you helping people?
Yes.
Because if you're helping people, then how can it be bad? If you're genuinely helping people. Now, if you're not, and you're taking advantage of people, which, yes, we know psychics, spiritualists, there are people out there that do this. We've talked about this in the former episode. Okay. But there's also pastors and preachers that don't help people either.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There are people that are in it for themselves and they want the money and the fame and the platform and want the power and all of that. Well, that's a very different kettle of fish, but ultimately the bottom line is it's not woo-woo, it's not weird, it's not strange. Everybody, whether you call it your gut instinct, whether you call it your intuition, everybody has that feeling inside of them of this is the way I should go or don't go that way.
Yeah. And I think that people who are open to being intuitive like you and I, people who have let that side kind of flourish in their life, it's just a form of guides.
Yeah.
It's just a guide that is helping you understand your intuition. Like if you were to come to me to get a reading, I probably wouldn't tell you anything that you don't already know.
Yes, exactly.
Just confirm what your soul has already been telling you, which for some reason people are more willing to trust an outside source that's telling them what they know versus what they've already been telling themselves.
Of course. That's why religions exist. That's why governments exist. That's why scientists exist. Not just because of the positive things they're doing. It's because we give our power to external sources.
Yeah.
We're more inclined to believe somebody external than we are ourselves. And that's become the ego with the self-sabotage, the imposter syndrome, the overthinking, all of that. We doubt ourselves. And yet, you and I both know how many times have we had people come to us for readings and at the end they go, you've just confirmed everything that I was already thinking.
Yeah, I mean, like 99% of the time. Yeah. Very rarely do I have people that tell me, okay, that didn't make any kind of sense and that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
I've had people come back to me later and tell me that everything that I've said has it didn't resonate at first, but now it's come to pass. I've had people do that.
Yeah, they're fun, right? When people are like, no, no, no. And then like a month or two later, they're like, this actually happened. And you're like, yeah, no.
Yeah, can I get another reading?
No.
Listen, because I know how hard it is, like to trust sometimes in the unknown, and especially when you're feeling down on yourself, it's really difficult to think that good things can happen to you or that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's less about the judgments around intuition and what's happening, and it's more about understanding that it comes from a place within you, and you can trust it. And you can let it open you up to the paths that maybe you're meant to be on, or maybe paths that are undiscovered.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So yeah, I mean, we hope that if you take anything away from this podcast, and this is kind of giving you a new perspective, or even just again clarify what you're already thinking, that you pay attention to your intuition, whether that's through feelings, body sensations, signs. Just pay attention, just try and quieten the external noise of the world if you can, and tune into what's right for you.
Yeah. And if fear is bubbling up inside of you, I ask you to question that fear.
Yes.
So look at that fear and be like, okay, well, why am I afraid of this? And are these fears founded, or is this just, something that's trying to keep me stuck?
Yes, exactly. That's a good thing to end on. So yeah, we hope that this has been helpful as ever. And we'd love to know your thoughts on this podcast as ever. So come in the comments and tell us if anything helped you. What's your experience with your intuition? Make this a part of this conversation. That'd be great. My turn. So next episode, tell me what you think about this. I've got her completely on the spot because she doesn't know if I'm going to say this. How you feel about doing an episode on spirit guides and angels.
I'm up for that.
Yay, me too. That's
I
gonna
mean,
be
I'm up for anything, y'all. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'd love to talk, so you don't have to convince me very much. Especially since I, at one point, didn't even believe in angels. This should be interesting.
It should be interesting, right? So, you know, if you're interested in all that sort of stuff, tune in next week and we'll have another in-depth chat about all things woo-woo. It's taking me over, guys. There's no hope. I'm telling you.
I'm sorry. I'd rather be a dreamer than a hard ass that doesn't believe anything good can happen to them. I'm sorry.
Amen to that sister. All day, every day, right? All
All
day,
right.
every day. Anyway, guys, look, we're going to love you and leave you for now. Thank you as ever for watching this episode. If you can give us a like, a share, subscribe, all that good stuff, we really appreciate you. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Big love.